Have you ever been betrayed by the one person who swore they'd protect you right when you needed them the most? Imagine carrying life inside you, nurturing not just your child, but also your dreams, only to be told, "You're too much, you're too emotional, I need space." That's what he said right after I caught him in our bed with someone else. And the worst part, I was 7 months pregnant. While I was designing the nursery, he was designing a life without me. But this isn't a sob story. It's a rebirth. Hi, my name is Julia Reyes, and this is the story of how I went from heartbroken and abandoned to sitting in the very office he once called his kingdom. It's the story of a woman who rebuilt her soul, one scar at a time, and eventually became the CEO of his dream company. So before we go on, do me a favor, like this video, share it with someone who needs to believe again. Comment below if you've ever felt betrayed but refused to break, and don't forget to subscribe, because stories like mine might just help someone rewrite theirs. Now, let me take you back to the beginning. I met Daniel Ramirez in college. He had charm, ambition, and a vision board before it was trendy. I was drawn to his energy, his dreams, his fire. He always said, "One day I'll build something big, a marketing empire, just wait and see." I believed him. More than that, I helped him. I designed his first logo, pitched ideas when no one showed up to his brainstorms, stayed up writing proposals while he networked. When we moved in together, he said, "This is it, Jules, we're building our life." And I believed that too. A few years later, I found out I was pregnant. It was unexpected, but I was overjoyed. He seemed less thrilled. "It's not the right time," he muttered. But I told myself he was just stressed with work. That was the beginning of the unraveling. He started coming home later. He stopped touching my belly. He said things like, "You're just hormonal," or "We're drifting, Jules." And I stayed silent. I held my stomach and whispered to my baby, "You're loved, no matter what." One Thursday afternoon, I left my prenatal class early. I had a weird feeling, call it intuition or divine warning. I walked into our apartment and found Daniel in bed with Madison, his assistant. She wasn't even embarrassed, just looked at me and shrugged as if I had walked into the wrong room. He didn't chase after me. He didn't call. The next morning, I packed a suitcase and left. No shouting, no begging, just silence. My mother opened the door when I arrived, her face pale. She hugged me tighter than ever before and whispered, "You don't have to be strong here, baby." The fall and the fight. The weeks after were a blur. My body was tired, my spirit fractured. I cried quietly into pillows and wiped my tears before my mother saw them. But one thing kept me standing, my baby. I knew she deserved more than bitterness. She deserved a mother who fought back, not with vengeance, but with vision. So I built a plan. I remembered Daniel's dream, Dr. Collective, the creative agency he was trying to build but couldn't stabilize. I knew that world inside out. I had helped from day one, unpaid, unseen, and I still had the blueprints, the structure, the back-end knowledge, the contacts. I started from scratch. Late nights, zero capital, a newborn on my chest as I typed proposals with one hand. I called it J. Reyes Studios, and I positioned it as the soul of strategy and branding, something DR Collective had lost. One by one, clients started coming. Many remembered me from the early days of DR. "You were the smart one," they said. "You listened, you understood." I smiled, but I never boasted. Not once did I mention Daniel. I didn't need to, because success speaks louder than revenge. Meanwhile, rumors started surfacing. DR Collective was struggling. Clients were leaving. Madison was now creative director, but had no creative experience. Daniel was drinking more, missing meetings. And then came the offer. One of DR's biggest clients, Horizon Tech, reached out to me. They said, "We're dropping DR. We want you." That single contract changed everything. With their backing, I expanded fast. I hired 2 former DR employees. I moved into a bigger office, and I never, not once, looked back. But fate has a funny way of circling back. One rainy morning, 2 years later, I got a call. Ms. Reyes, we have a business acquisition proposal from DR Collective. They're looking to be bought out. Would you like to see the documents? I sat still for a long time. Then I said, yes. I walked into that boardroom like I was walking into the very past that tried to bury me. The moment the glass doors closed behind me, I saw the name on the file. DR Collective. Acquisition and liquidation proposal. Daniel's dream, now reduced to a salvage operation. He wasn't there at first, just his lawyer and a few exhausted-looking staff. I recognized two of them, people who once told me I was just the girlfriend. Now they smiled nervously and avoided eye contact. 10 minutes in, Daniel stormed into the room, late as always. But this time he wasn't glowing with ambition. He was pale, disheveled, and thinner. Life had carved lines into his once proud face. He stopped dead when he saw me at the head of the table. "Julia?" His voice cracked. I didn't stand. I didn't flinch. I just said calmly, "Please take your seat." He looked at the lawyer. "What is this? She's not..." The man interrupted gently. "She is. Miss Reyes is the majority shareholder of the agency that's acquiring DR Collective." Daniel blinked. "Wait, you're buying me out?" There was silence, heavy, thick, undeniable, and I finally said, "No, I'm saving what's left of your mess for the sake of the clients. Nothing more." You could almost hear his ego implode. He leaned back in the chair, eyes darting between the proposal and my name on the documents. He laughed, not with humor, but disbelief. "You were nothing without me," he said bitterly. "You were soft." I smiled. "Yes, and that softness built a company that's thriving while yours collapsed." Then I stood up. "You can sign, or we walk. Your choice." He signed. In the weeks that followed, J. Reyes Studios absorbed the DR Collective name. I kept the brand, but infused it with ethics, purpose, and people-first values. I brought back employees who'd been overlooked. I created maternity rooms, mental health support, and a culture of respect. And I did one more thing. I wrote a letter, not to Daniel, but to my daughter. I wrote about resilience, about how sometimes the people we love the most hurt us the deepest, but it's not a reflection of our worth. I told her that being left behind doesn't mean you're lesser. Sometimes it just means life is making room for something greater. I told her that kindness isn't weakness, that grace can coexist with boundaries, that success without revenge is the sweetest kind. A few months later, I saw Daniel again, by accident. He was at a networking event I was keynoting. I spotted him in the back row, unshaven, alone, clapping slowly as I finished my speech. I didn't acknowledge him, but after the event, as I was getting into the car, he approached. He looked at me and said, "I never imagined it would be you." I answered, "That was your first mistake." He chuckled bitterly. "You're raising her alone." I smiled. "Not alone. Surrounded by love, peace, and purpose." He looked like he wanted to say more, but then he just nodded and walked away. Life doesn't always reward the loudest voice. Sometimes it honors the quiet strength of those who endure, adapt, and rise with grace. He cheated on me while I was pregnant, but I didn't let that define me. Now, I'm the CEO of his dream, and I'll leave you with this. Sometimes, the rejection that breaks you is the very storm that clears your path. If this story moved you, like this video. Comment if you've ever been underestimated, share it with someone who needs this today, and subscribe because your story isn't over yet. Months passed, the business thrived. I was nominated for a national award in women-led entrepreneurship, interviews, podcasts, features. Everything felt surreal. Then, one afternoon, my assistant rushed into the office. "You need to see this," she said, breathless. It was a blog post. Daniel had written a personal essay titled "The Woman Who Built My Dream." In it, he confessed to everything: the betrayal, the failure, the arrogance. He wrote, "I lost her because I never really saw her. I thought I was the visionary. Turns out, I was just standing in the light of her brilliance." The post went viral. Suddenly, I was flooded with messages, not about him, but about me. Women wrote, "You gave me hope. I left an abusive situation today. Thank you for showing us how strength can be quiet." And in that moment, I realized something. This wasn't about Daniel anymore. It wasn't even about revenge. It was about healing, growth, becoming the woman I was meant to be, not in spite of the pain, but because of it. And that brings us here. 1 year later, I stood outside the new headquarters of J. Reyes Global, the evolution of everything I built. My daughter, now walking and giggling, held my hand as we cut the ribbon together. Cameras flashed, the crowd clapped, my team cheered. In the speech, I said, "I built this with broken pieces. I turned betrayal into blueprint. Every scar on my heart became a line in this architecture." People cried, people clapped, and I knew I didn't just survive, I transcended. Daniel, I heard he moved out of state, started a small freelance gig, quiet life. We never spoke again. But sometimes, silence is the loudest form of peace. And as I tucked my daughter into bed that night, she whispered, "Mommy, are you happy?" I kissed her forehead and whispered, "More than I ever imagined."